It is now 12:04 in the afternoon for me. So, good afternoon. And I hope you're all doing well. And before I get started, I just want to say if you could throw out a comment or give us a thumbs up and share the video or follow us, that would truly be appreciated. Now, the thing I have for you today, I won't talk about it a lot. Just going to get into it. It's about deportation of Americans from Mexico. So, buckle your seatbelts. This gets bumpy.
So a lot of people don't know is that Mexico is border with Guatemala. Yes. Okay? We don't let them in. So the same thing in America does to Mexico, we do in Guatemala. Okay? It just, the music, CNN, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, New York Post, they're never going to show you that. Just so you know, Mexico is extremely racist. So we have, Guatemalans, even so Mexicans. You gotta remember, Mexico was dominated by the Spaniards. The only reason I look the way I look is because I'm 65% Spaniard. Yeah. Mexicans, like real Mexicans, which is known as Mexica, not Mexico, Mexica, are, 5'4", super dark with big noses and the heads pushed back. Aztecs and Mayans. Like Indians. Like Indians. Yes. Well, we're natives, right? So we're blended. So the reality is in Mexico, till this day, if you are not light complected, somewhat tall, you're frowned upon. To this day. Explain.
Now, I don't know if you caught on to all of that, but this person who was born, raised, and lives in Mexico has stated that Mexico is extremely racist. Now, I don't believe that every Mexican who lives in Mexico is a racist. I don't know every person who lives in Mexico, obviously. So I don't know about that claim. Probably more familiar with it than I am. And it's another thing I want to throw out is listen to this. This is really interesting, sad, but interesting. They do not only want Americans to leave Mexico. They want to get rid of the Americans, get them out of there, get rid of the gringos, I believe is the word, gringo. And they want to get rid of the gringos, but they also want to get rid of everybody else too. Mexico is for Mexicans. That's their opinion. That's the signs they carry. That's the chants they chant. This is what it seems to be what certain groups in Mexico want. Mexico is for Mexicans. So it's not just Americans. Central Americans, they don't want to be even flooded with Central Americans. They're trying to get rid of all those Central Americans that have stopped in Mexico on their way to the United States. So that's something to remember. So the United States is not the only country that's been doing this. And Mexico has been doing this for an extremely long time. I don't mean a couple of months. I don't mean 6 months or a year. I mean probably decades, right? I trace some of the stuff back to the 80s where they were doing this. So they didn't start it as a revenge for the United States picking out Mexicans. It's not a revenge deportation. It's just what they've been doing the entire time. So here's something else that's interesting.
Deportation is colonization. Let's talk about it. Recently, there's been protests in Mexico City because of the amount of people from America that have brought over their money and started their own businesses, gentrifying, making everything more expensive in parts of Mexico. Now, of course, there's some people in the comments, like Americans, being like, oh, yeah, I guess they also hate when immigrants come here and take their homes and jobs. That's not what gentrification is, Ted. Gentrification is when you bring money from your country into a different country, you raise up the prices of everything because you're buying top-notch houses, you're building businesses, you're trying to basically push people that lived in that area out of there because you're making everything too fucking expensive. And at the same time, you're going around complaining about the locals and the culture, people being up too late, making noise near your new condo that you bought in your retirement in Mexico. And I think we're going to see more of this. We're going to see more people in Mexico fighting back, pushing back against people in America, whether they're well-intended or not, coming in and doing so. Because if you're going to go into another country, as you guys like to say, you got to assimilate.
When people come into the United States, and we have the situations that we have now with the negative effects. I'm just talking about the negative effects, not the positive ones, and there are some positive ones, I'm sure. But here is our problem. Ours is the opposite of people pumping money into the country. They are actually sending money out of the country. And now that drives property values down, all right? It does make things more expensive because there's less money in circulation. Less money in circulation, limit the supplies. The only way to do that is to jack up the prices. Inflation. That's just one thing that causes inflation. It's not the only thing. So if you can think of a few other things, that's fine. I mean, by all means, drop a comment on it. I won't bother getting into arguments about such things, but definitely, if you want people to know where you stand, leave us a comment.
I'll learn the culture. But for some reason, Americans think that they're the exception. They could go to these places, make their own areas, and that's fine and that's normal. But if hardworking immigrants want to come to America, build jobs, do their own thing, just be a part of their own communities, literally away from you, then they're an issue. But Janice and her husband can come and move somewhere to Mexico because it's so cheap for retirement, and then complain that the restaurant near them that's been there for 3 generations is too loud at night and try to get them shut down. That's gentrification. Now, if Janice and her husband moved there and they understood that things have been around and people have been around there longer than they have, that's not a problem. But Janice and her husband going and try to police everywhere, build these businesses, not include the actual local community and people, that's not good.
Yesterday, 4th of July, they had a protest in Mexico against American migrants, and it turned violent where they start attacking American businesses. Check this out.
How familiar does this look? This is Mexico. This is not the U.S.
So their complaints against the American migrants is gentrification. They're draining the resources of Mexico. Here's one. Americans in Mexico should learn Spanish. Americans in Mexico should learn Spanish. Now, when America expressed these same concerns, Americans are the villains, have phobias. Oh, you shouldn't say that. But when Mexico says this, is long live Mexico, we support Mexico.
And there are Mexicans here in the United States and other countries that come from other countries to the United States. They're in the United States, and they still want you to learn their language. Now, I don't have a problem with people learning other languages. That's a great idea. There is a problem, however, and it's a logistics problem. It's real. It's solid. It's not something that you can easily dismiss. And here's the problem. It's not just Spanish. And it's not just Mexican Spanish. It's Guatemalan Spanish. It's Nicaraguan Spanish. All right? And then there are, did you know that there are South American countries that speak a variety of French? Oh yeah. Got their own variety of French. Hey, better learn that too, right? Oh wait, the Russians that come in. You know, I've met 2 Russian immigrants in my whole life, and they were amazing people. Hardworking, friendly, gracious, generous people. I love their company, and I haven't seen them in years. I certainly hope they're doing well. But here's the problem. If you've got all of these people coming into the United States saying, well, you should learn our language. You get people in here from 100 countries or more. Who is going to take the time? Who can take the time? Who has the ability to learn all of their languages? Nobody I know. Certainly not me. I speak a little Japanese. The only Spanish I really speak fluently is food. You know, but that's the problem. Pretty soon, the diversification is so huge that learning all of those people's languages is impossible. Can't be done. It is so much easier and so much more possible to have them learn the language of the country they move into. Now, this is why I don't live in Germany. I don't speak German. No desire to speak German. I don't speak Spanish, except the food. So I'm not going to move to Mexico or any other place that has a flavor of Spanish in it. And I'm not going to move to Japan because I don't speak fluent Japanese. I don't speak Chinese, so I'm not moving there. I don't speak Russian. I'm not moving. You get the picture? If you're going to move someplace, at least have the courtesy to learn the language, the laws, and the customs. Assimilate. Assimilate and blend in. Be a productive member of that community. If you can't do that, don't go there.
And if you look at the numbers, there's over 10 million plus Mexican immigrants in the United States. 4 million of them live in Southern California, and a high percentage of them is receiving some form of government assistance. Let's not talk about Medi-Cal, which is Medicaid. That's California version of Medicaid. We want to discuss gentrification. Try finding a place in Los Angeles or Southern California, especially if it's a lot where they're saturated at, where it's predominantly them. Even if you can afford the rent, most likely they're not going to rent to you. And it'd be like 8 to 10 of them living in a 1-bedroom apartment, when in Los Angeles, it's supposed to only be 3 people to a 1-bedroom apartment. If you try to do that as an American, you will get reported. Now, the Americans that live in Mexico, you got to show proof that you're bringing in $2,600, at least $2,600 a month. So you're showing them you're not going to live off their government. If you don't have that, you have.
So he's saying that you have to prove that you will not be living off of the Mexican government in order to actually live in Mexico. Stop. Let's focus on that for just a moment. Here in the United States, we have people coming in, and there are sanctuary cities and states that tell people, don't worry about the law. Don't worry about what's legal. We don't care if it's breaking the law. We're going to give you medical. We're going to give you food stamps. We're going to give you cash allotments, and we're going to give you free shelter and transportation. And you don't even have to become a citizen. You don't even have to let anybody else know you're here. But he's saying in Mexico, if someone moves into Mexico, they have to be able to prove they can support themselves, or they can't be there. Remember that.
Have to have $43,000 in the bank to even go over there.
$43,000. If you don't even have that in the bank, don't even bother.
1. Background: Americans in Mexico. Roughly 1.6 million U.S. citizens reside in Mexico, many with legal visas or permanent residency, alongside a significant number of tourists and remote workers. While most visitors rely on the standard 180-day FMM tourist permit, legal residents such as retirees.
You got 180 days. Well, if you go to Mexico, all right, not only do you have to prove that you can, not only do you have to assimilate, learn the language, the laws, and the customs, all right, not only do you have to prove that you can support yourself, right, but there's a list of requirements, right? Just like this just said. There's more, so much more.
Digital nomads, or family members hold temporary or permanent residency cards. 2. Shift in immigration enforcement. In early 2025, Mexican authorities initiated wider enforcement operations to address.
Okay, look at this. Look. Watch.
Early 2025,
There we go.
Mexican authorities.
Kill a gringo. There are people in Mexico that absolutely hate the white person. Hate them. So my big question is except for the living expenses management, why go someplace where somebody hates you? Where does that make any sense at all? Do you honestly believe that you're going to be safe indefinitely if you go someplace where people hate you? People hate people everywhere. Don't even try that. Listen to me. You're moving into a country that is said by at least one citizen of that country. That country is extremely racist. Mexico for Mexicans. Stop. That's it. Now, if you're not Mexican, you are in danger. People have gone down to Mexico from the U.S. and disappeared. They've been kidnapped. They try ransoms. They try killing people to make a statement. Bad place to be if you're not Mexican.
Initiated wider enforcement operations to address visa overstays and residency compliance. Checkpoints at airports, bus stations, and border areas have become more active. Fines around 1,780 Mexican pesos are commonly issued for expired tourist permits, but in a growing number of cases, even legally residing Americans have reportedly faced detainment or deportation due to administrative oversights.
Okay, I want to point something out. These individuals are taking these flagpoles and these umbrellas from sidewalk tables and stuff, and they're trying to break out windows with them. Some of them not so successful, but they keep trying anyway. This is not the thought patterns of a rational human being. This person is so desperate to make a statement. They're so desperate to make the gringo leave that they will continue to do things that just are completely irrational. Now understand this. Your physical safety was in danger at a given point if they would want it to be. Why? Because they're not thinking rationally. They're capable of anything.
3. Reported impact. Baja California authorities confirmed that 261 American citizens were deported in 2023, an unexpected figure given the assumption that enforcement targeted undocumented individuals. From 2012 to 2024, more than 14,500 U.S. citizens have been formally deported or warned by Mexican immigration authorities, often tied to overstays and administrative violations.
Same thing the U.S. is doing to people who overstay or commit administrative crimes here. Same exact thing. So when somebody says, no other country's doing this, the United States is racist. The United States isn't the only one doing it. And it's not just Mexico either. There are countries, do your research. Go find out. There are other countries on this planet who are kicking people who are not born citizens out. The United States is not the only one adopting these policies. So this is not Nazism. This is not fascism. This is not communism. This is not any of those things. This is a natural knee-jerk reaction by countries who are concerned about being taken over simply by influx of migrants. They're concerned about it, and they're taking care of the problem. So don't point the finger at the U.S. and say, "Oh, you guys are the only ones doing it." You know, I'll tell you something. Listen, England's doing it too. They are. Don't believe me? Go find out.
4. Spotlight on legally residing Americans. Recent enforcement.
He's got a knife. He's trying to stab through the window. Trying to break the window with a knife. Stab. And it's just not working. It's not working. But he's keep doing it anyway. Why? He's irrational. He's not thinking rationally.
Sweeps have included temporary and permanent residents. When residents fail to renew or carry proper documentation, they may be fined, detained temporarily, or expelled, even if their initial status was legal. Immigrants with
I don't know if you noticed this, but filtering through these shots, looking at some of the people in some of these crowds, they're wearing all over head masks. Why? Because they don't want anybody to know who they are. So the United States, people in the United States, are not the only people who are doing that. All of this, if you look at it, I mean, if you really, honestly look at it in an objective fashion, take your emotions and throw them out the window and just look at it, you'll see that the United States has a lot in common with these other countries, including Mexico. So don't be saying, well, people in the United States wear masks because they're cowards. Well, you know what? People in other countries are doing exactly the same thing. Are they cowards? If the answer is yes, go change their minds. You go change their minds. You make it the standard to protest or enforce the law with your face uncovered. You go make that a standard. You do it. You go and you make that standard. And when you get back, and it's now a standard for the whole world, you can point the finger at me and say, there, told you so. But it's not going to happen. Why isn't it going to happen? I'm going to tell you why. It's impossible. You can't do it. Nobody can. Now, for all of those people who believe in this message, none of these people care about you. None of them. That the bottom line for them is the almighty dollar and the power over individuals. They want the money, they want the power. Why? Because if they have it, then nobody else does. Why is that important to them? It's their way of defending themselves. Grab, get more, take it, take more. And they defend themselves by not allowing you to get it. They're taking it away from you so you can't use it to be on their level. They don't want you there. The people with the money and the power don't want you on their level, because that would make them average, and they can't stand that thought.
Expired FMMs or lapsed residency have reported being detained at checkpoints or denied exit until resolving infractions. 5. Public response and local sentiment. A wave of anti-gentrification protests erupted in Mexico City, where slogans like "Gringo Go Home" appeared, reflecting tensions over rising living costs and
They play Uno. It's a common ground, right?
cultural displacement tied to foreign residents. President Sheinbaum has denied any plan for mass deportation of Americans with legitimate visas, countering viral rumors. 6. Legal protections versus administrative risk.
Okay. Officially speaking, that might be true. They have no plans to do that. That's great. One problem. They don't have to do it because the population is doing it. The Mexicans who are tired of the Americans being there, they are the ones who are forcing the Americans to have to come back into the United States. It's not an official deportation. They forced them out with violence. They forced them out with violence.
Residency permit holders are legally entitled to due process under Mexican immigration law. However, enforcement operations are often administrative, with limited rights to appeals.
Here in the United States, if somebody is deported from the United States, this is super important. There's a whole process behind it, and they have the right to an appeal. they have the right to an appeal. I do a whole video on that. But if you're an American or any other nationality in Mexico and they're going to kick you out, limited. Your rights to any of that is extremely limited.
Authorities may deport individuals over document lapses before appeals can be filed. 7. Recommendations for U.S. residents. Always carry FMM or residency cards. Renew documents promptly, ideally 60 to 90 days before expiration. Stay updated via Mexican consulates and INM, Instituto Nacional de Migración. In case of detention, remain calm, assert your legal residence status, and contact the U.S. Embassy or consulate. 8. Outlook. Is this a trend? Enforcement is currently targeted administratively, not part of mass deportation policy. However, data shows consistent deportations, notably of permit overstayers, which may indicate stricter oversight to reassert immigration compliance. Continued oversight of enforcement operations and bilateral coordination between U.S. and Mexican authorities will influence future protections for legal residents. TL. Doctor. Mexico is enforcing long-standing immigration laws more strictly, resulting in deportations of U.S. citizens, even some who hold legal residency, mainly due to administrative paperwork issues. While not a mass deportation policy.
One of the main reasons they're kicking Americans out of Mexico, paperwork issues. Something wasn't filled out right, something wasn't filed on time, something got lost in the system. Get out, go. They don't want you there. They're using any reason they possibly can to kick the Americans out of Mexico. Now, here's my thought. It's Mexico. It's for Mexicans. I get it. That's why I don't live there. It's not my country. I'm not going to walk in there and just think I automatically have a right to be there just because there's a system that says I can live there if I want to. I'm not going to do that. That's ridiculous. Mexico, for Mexicans, I get it. What I don't understand is the violence. I really do not understand the violence.
Heightened scrutiny makes proper documentation and renewal more critical than ever for Americans in Mexico. S.
Now, taking all of that into consideration, you have to think to yourself, is the U.S. really doing anything that other countries are not doing? Now, people could make the argument, well, they're doing it to us, so we can do it to them. Personally, I think that's idiocy. Two wrongs don't make a right. Evil is evil, no matter how many layers is to it. I don't think they should treat us like that. I don't think we should treat them like that. I think that there is legal deportation for good reason. I think that the process should be followed. But I don't understand the violence. I just don't get it. So, excuse me. So, as usual, about this time, I would like to ask you to comment, like, share, give me a follow. People really don't understand how important that is. I have a fixed income. I'll just say that. And the views and all of these things, without you giving 1 red cent of your own money, you can help a content creator simply do better. That's all. So I'm going to drop that in your lap. I want to say thank you for your time. God bless you. And God bless America.